They paraded her like a beast, chains tight, eyes downcast, treated like nothing more than an exhibit to be sold to the highest bidder. The others laughed, mocked her trembling form, too alien, too broken, too strange. But when his footsteps echoed through the slave market, she looked up, just once. One glance. One breath. And with lips barely able to move, she whispered, "Please, take me home." He shouldn't have stopped. He shouldn't have cared. But somehow he did. The market smelled of rusted metal, sweat, and despair. Chains clinked with every movement, a symphony of suffering echoing through the open square. She stood near the back of the platform, barely clothed, her wrists bound tightly behind her. Her skin, lavender in hue and mottled with bruises, shone dimly beneath the glaring twin suns. Eyes passed over her without interest. She was too tall, too alien, too foreign to be desirable. The traders called her a failed experiment, part of a captured species from a fringe world no one bothered naming. But when they spoke of her, it was never her name, only terms like it, that one, or the big one. She hadn't spoken in days, not since they dragged her from the transport cage and stripped her in front of the crowd. She'd tried resisting once. The scars along her ribs told the story of what happened when she dared. Children cried as their mothers were taken. Males were separated, drugged, or bound in electric coils. But she was left to be displayed, an exotic item for those with cruel tastes. The auctioneer had already tried twice to start a bid for her, voice faltering as the crowd turned elsewhere. Laughter erupted nearby as a younger, smaller alien fetched a decent price. She didn't flinch. Her eyes, large and glassy, remained fixed on the cracked stones beneath her bare feet. Her toes curled with every shout, every metallic jingle of new restraints clicking shut. She remembered her home, lush trees with singing birds and rivers that shimmered green in the moonlight. She had a mate once, killed trying to protect their brood. She had 3 children, only one lived long enough to be taken. The other 2, they didn't survive the fires. A human stepped into the square, tall, broad-shouldered, his clothes dusty from travel. He moved with a quiet intensity, unlike the others who barked orders or strutted with self-importance. His gaze scanned the auction with detached interest until it landed on her. She didn't look up. No one ever looked at her and saw anything worth saving. She had long since learned how to disappear into her own silence. But his steps slowed. He looked directly at her, past the chains, past the bruises. His brow furrowed slightly, lips pressing into a line. The auctioneer spotted him and brightened. "You there, sir, interested in something rare?" The man didn't answer. He stepped closer, now within a few meters of her. Still, she didn't lift her head. The auctioneer followed, puffing his chest. "That one's strong. Quiet too. Might make a good laborer if you don't mind the look of her." The human didn't speak. He studied her for a long moment. Then his voice came, low, calm, cutting through the noise like a whisper in a storm. "What's her name?" The auctioneer blinked. "Name? She doesn't talk. Some of them don't." The human's eyes stayed on her. "Everyone has a name." Something inside her stirred. She shifted slightly, muscles aching beneath her skin. A breeze caught her hair, tangled and matted as it was, and for a second, she thought she imagined his expression softening. "Start the bid," he said. The crowd wasn't interested, but a few turned to watch. It wasn't every day someone tried to buy one of the display rejects. The auctioneer named a low starting number, lower than she'd ever heard offered for anyone. The man nodded once. No one else raised a hand. A few snickered. One of the traders shouted something crude about his taste. He ignored them. "Sold," the auctioneer said with a shrug. "She's yours." "You sure about this one, sir?" He didn't respond. He stepped forward. The handlers moved to unchain her, yanking roughly as they released the locks. She stumbled as her arms were freed, collapsing forward, but he caught her before she hit the stone. His hands were warm. She flinched, expecting a blow, but none came. He held her gently. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she raised her head. Their eyes met. Her voice, when it came, was nothing but a breath, barely more than a vibration from trembling lips. "Please take me home." He said nothing, just nodded. She sat on the floor of his small dwelling, simple walls, one cot, a small heating unit glowing in the corner. He hadn't bound her. He hadn't yelled. He hadn't touched her since helping her inside. She didn't know what to do with the silence. It wasn't empty like the auction square, it was calm. Safe. She'd never experienced anything like it. The human, he told her his name was Cole, moved around the space with practiced ease. He placed a steaming bowl of something in front of her. She recoiled slightly, unsure if it was a trap. He stepped back and sat down a few feet away. "You hungry?" he asked. She didn't answer. Her stomach twisted painfully. "I'm not going to hurt you." She stared at the bowl. After a moment, tentatively, she reached for it. The warmth of it in her hands almost made her cry. She ate slowly, trying not to appear desperate. He didn't watch her like a master. He just waited. When she was done, he took the bowl without a word and set it aside. "What do I call you?" he asked. She froze. "I can't keep calling you her or you. You got a name." She shook her head, barely a twitch. "You don't remember?" She hesitated, then whispered Kale. His eyes softened again. "Kale. That's a good name." He never asked what she'd been through. He didn't force her to talk. Over the next few days, she sat quietly in the corner, watching him. He never locked the door. He left food for her. She didn't try to run. Where would she go? Once, during the night, she woke to a nightmare. Cold sweat, her breath caught in her throat. She found herself standing near his bed without realizing how she got there. He didn't stir, but his hand moved slightly, offering space on the floor beside him. She curled up near his feet and slept. By the end of the week, she spoke more. Simple words. Soft answers. When she said thank you, he only nodded. One night, as the storm winds howled outside, she moved closer and sat beside him. He didn't react. She was nearly twice his height, but he never looked at her like she was monstrous. He simply offered her his warmth. She touched his hand once, gently. He didn't pull away. In the next town over, rumors spread. The human who'd bought the strange one. They said he kept her hidden. That he was breeding her. That he was going soft. Traders mocked him. Guards questioned his sanity. But none of them saw her the way he did. She was learning to speak more fluently. Her tongue struggled with his language, but he was patient. He taught her how to use tools, how to boil water, how to stitch cloth. She showed him how to listen to the wind, how to find roots that healed. One night, after they shared a meal in silence, she said, "You never asked why I was there." He looked at her, then shook his head. "Didn't need to." "I wasn't supposed to survive," she whispered. "They took my world. Burned it. I was just extra. The soldiers took the strong ones. Left the rest." "I know," he said quietly. She hesitated, then reached for his hand again. "I wasn't brave enough to die. I let them take me." "You were brave enough to live," he said. "That counts." Tears slipped down her cheeks, thick, iridescent, strange. He brushed one away without hesitation. Weeks passed. Then months. She began helping in town. Shy, quiet, but never far from Cole's side. Children were the first to approach her, unafraid, curious. She carved toys from discarded wood, humming lullabies in her native tongue. The townsfolk slowly stopped staring. One afternoon, while cleaning the market stall with Cole, a trader approached, one of the men from the auction square. His smile was cruel. "She cleans up nice," he said, leering. "Didn't expect her to be so obedient." Cale froze. Cole stepped between them, calm but firm. "Leave." The trader laughed. "Easy, friend. Just admiring your pet." "She's not a pet," Cole said. Cale's hand trembled, then slowly found his. He didn't flinch. "She's not for sale," he added. The trader scoffed and walked away. That night, Cale sat by the fire with her knees drawn to her chest. "You meant it," she said. He looked up. "Meant what?" "That I'm not for sale." He met her eyes. "Of course I meant it." She reached for his face, tentative, her fingers trailing down the edge of his jaw. "I don't want to be alone anymore," she whispered. "I want to stay." His voice was rough. "Then stay." She leaned into him, her body pressing against his, large and unfamiliar, but he didn't pull away. Her heart beat fast, hope and fear warring inside her. "You saved me," she said. "You saved yourself," he replied. She smiled, soft and real. And for the first time in years, she believed it. He didn't know what compelled him to stop. Maybe it was the way her eyes clung to his even as they shoved her to the ground, or how her voice, hoarse and quiet, reached past the crowd to find only him. "Please take me home." Rook wasn't a hero. He wasn't even brave, by his own standards. He was a logistics officer, middle-aged, tired, and disillusioned with what the Union had become, how it handled the fallen races it liberated. They didn't say slavery anymore, they said integration. They didn't say auction, they called it placement evaluation. And the girl, no woman, he just watched be manhandled before a gallery of leering aliens was called a display case. But there was something in her voice. Not pleading. Not bargaining. Just raw, desperate truth. She didn't expect rescue, but she still hoped. Somehow, that was worse. So he stepped forward. Papers be damned. He didn't wait for the formalities. He pulled out his union credentials, an old rank that still carried weight, and walked straight up to the handler. "Transfer her to me," he said. "Now." The handler sneered, a five-eyed prankson who reeked of burnt oils and stale sweat. "Not your jurisdiction, human. She's tagged for permanent demo rotation. She's malfunctioning, emotionally unstable. Dangerous liability. I'm taking her to medical quarantine," Rook snapped, bluffing with a confidence he didn't know he possessed. A few people in the crowd grumbled. The handler hesitated, then backed down. The badge still worked. They unshackled her wrists slowly, grudgingly. She didn't speak as they shoved her toward him. She stumbled. Rook caught her. Her skin was too cold, and he could feel the tremble in her limbs. He wrapped his coat around her, arm tightening when she flinched from touch. "You're safe now," he said, words he wasn't sure she could believe yet. She blinked once, slow, mistrusting. But she leaned into his side as they left. Not because she trusted him, but because her body had nothing left. The ride back to his hab unit was silent. She didn't look out the window, just clutched the coat tighter and sat hunched like she expected to be struck again. Rook glanced at her now and then, at the lines of exhaustion etched into her alien face, at the chain bruises around her wrists, at the faint dry crust of old tears that had long since stopped falling. Her people, he didn't know their true name. The records just called them Species 917b. Their world had been liberated 10 cycles ago. Civil war. Resistance. The Union came in to stabilize. What remained was a generation in chains. He hated it. He hated all of it. And yet, here he was, a cog in the same machine. But no more. That ended now. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't speak as they stepped into the simple two-room home he kept on the edge of Sector 12. It was small, clean, quiet. Safe. He gestured to the couch. "You can rest there. I'll bring food." She didn't move. "It's not poisoned," he added dryly. "Or drugged. It's just stew." Her voice was rough when she finally replied. "I know. I just don't know how to sit anymore." Rook stopped. He turned back slowly, heart tightening at the weight in those words. Without saying anything, he walked over and knelt in front of her. Gently, he took her hands. "Then we'll learn again. Together." She stared at him. The expression on her face cracked. She sat, awkwardly at first, like her limbs weren't used to bending freely. But she sat. And he brought her stew. She didn't thank him. But she ate every bite. That night, he gave her his bed and took the couch. She protested, but weakly. It had been years since she'd had privacy, warmth, or silence. He heard her crying softly, once, but didn't go to her. Some grief needs to breathe alone. Morning came. He found her curled beneath the blankets, eyes wide open, watching the light filter through the window like it was the first sunrise she'd ever seen. She didn't speak much in those early days. She jumped at loud sounds. She flinched from fast movements. But she listened. And she learned. Her name, she told him hesitantly, after the third night, was Taylor. He said it back to her gently, like it was a prayer. "Taylor." She blinked. "That's the first time it sounded like it belonged to me." Slowly, oh so slowly, she began to return. Not fully. Not yet. But the spark behind her eyes began to flicker again. She began to ask questions. First about the food. Then the weather. Then him. "Why did you really take me?" she asked one evening as they shared tea. "I don't know," he admitted. "Something about the way you looked at me. You weren't begging. You weren't broken. You were daring me to do something." "And you did," she said. Her voice didn't carry bitterness, just awe. "I didn't think humans could see us." "I didn't think I could either," he said. That night, she didn't cry. She slept soundly. A week later, the Union sent a message, asking for status updates. Rook ignored it. Then they sent 2 officials. He didn't let them inside. "She's under my protection. My custody. Your documents were illegal," he told them. "Try to take her, I'll leak everything." They backed off. Not out of guilt, but fear. He knew how to make noise. And the Union hated noise. Months passed. Taylor changed. Not physically, Her species aged differently, but emotionally, spiritually. She began to laugh. First once. Then often. She fixed things, his stove, his cracked drone, the garden autotiller he hadn't touched in years. I like working, she said. It makes me feel like I exist. She even began to touch him, small things. A hand on his shoulder. A brush of fingers as she passed him a plate. Once, she hugged him when a storm passed over and he found her huddled near the emergency shelter door. It used to rain like this on my homeworld, she whispered. Before the cities burned. He held her then, and didn't let go. That winter, she fell ill. Nothing deadly, but her body shook with fever for 3 days. Rook never left her side. He fed her. Cleaned her. Sat with her through the chills and the sweats. Why do you do this? She asked on the second night. I'm not your mate. I'm not even your kind. Because you're mine to protect, he said. Not because I own you, but because I chose you. And you chose me. She stared at him, eyes shining. That matters. It's the only thing that does, he said. Spring came. With it, flowers bloomed in the garden. And Taylor changed again. She danced one night, in the moonlight. Alone at first. Then she reached out a hand. Dance with me, Rook. He hesitated, but then took her hand. They swayed. Not in rhythm. Not perfectly. But it didn't matter. She laughed again. He smiled. Something bloomed between them. Not pity. Not obligation. Love. He never touched her without invitation. But that invitation came, wordless, one evening when she cupped his face and leaned in. Her kiss was gentle, unsure. But it carried 1,000 silent thank yous. He kissed her back. They said no words that night. Just heartbeats. Just breath. Just skin against skin and a promise, unspoken but real, that she was his and he was hers. In the days that followed, she changed again. Softer. Stronger. She planted flowers. Painted walls. Repaired the roof. One morning, she looked up from breakfast and said, I want to be registered. Registered. He blinked. As what? As your partner, she said. Legally. So they can't take me. So we can be us. He nodded slowly. We'll do it together. The process was slow. Painful. Full of loopholes and ugly questions. But they did it. She became Taylor Arvin, his surname his equal. The news sent ripples across the sector. Some praised him. Others mocked. But he didn't care. He'd seen what others missed. The soul beneath the scars. The woman behind the collar. And one night, as they sat beneath the stars, her head on his shoulder, she whispered, Thank you for seeing me. No, he said. Thank you for surviving long enough to be seen. Her hand found his. Fingers laced. Together. Always.